Good evening and welcome to 10 to Go Radio. I'm your host, Honorary Boomer, and I'm joined again by our esteemed guest, Hunter.
What's going on, everybody?
It's a beautiful day. I hope everybody had a great Easter. And
Beautiful day, my butt.
we're on to a new streaming platform. We're kind of hoping that this one won't cut us in half, and it's going to have hopefully some better audio for you. Sorry about last week. I know we lost a little bit of the audio there, and it was unrecoverable. So, unfortunately, missed out on some of that. But what we aren't missing out on is the story of the week. We'll jump right into it. Lap 10. This time, we're talking about Atlanta and autographs from drivers. Hunter, what do you know about getting autographs from drivers outside the track?
Outside of the track, you have to be very slick usually. Yeah, unless it's a public signing. If you see a driver, you can't hesitate on it.
Right. You gotta get right in there, and a lot of times you need a wristband. You gotta spend, half a week's paycheck sometimes on getting a
It feels like.
wristband, and they're limited. I understand why they do the wristbands so that you don't end up with a line into the next county. But gosh, I just feel like it'd be nice if there were maybe more wristbands or something, or if the wristbands were free, that'd be pretty slick too. But I don't know. Some people don't have wristbands at all. They just don't have that problem. And one of those people is John Hunter Nemechek. So I was in line to meet John Hunter Nemechek. And as we were waiting, the line kind of wraps around and between the merch trailers. And it presented a problem for the Front Row Motorsports golf cart driver that had Todd Gilliland with him. Todd was on his way to the boiled peanut stand, as we've discussed in
Thought he was
previous
coming back.
episodes. No, he was headed there.
Wait,
He was.
hold on. If
What?
I'm not wrong, and this is just my mind being my mind, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Didn't somebody ask for a signature on the way up before he had his appearance, and on the way back, that's when he got out, wasn't it?
No,
I
this
could
was
have
on his way
sworn.
too. He was like, I gotta get over to the peanut stand.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was headed that way, and he was just signing. He's like, "Who are y'all in line for?" And we're like, "John Hunter Nemechek." And he's like, "Well, you want me to sign?" And I'm like looking through my cards. I'm like, "I don't have a Todd card. I'm sorry, man." And he's like, "I'll sign anything else." And I'm like, "No, it's okay."
Hmm.
But the guy in front of me had a blast. He had him sign on his Ross Chastain shirt. I said, "Boy, what's Ross gonna say when you ask him to sign your shirt?" But it's one of
It
those
was
things that it was cool.
that you don't see many drivers doing that, but I'll give Todd credit. He's a man of the people. It's like might as well go ahead and try to sign people's stuff while I'm here. I
It,
think I got a photo with him.
yeah, yeah, he was
I'd
great.
have to go back and check my storage, but I think I have a photo with him. I think I didn't have anything to get signed either, so I took a selfie with him.
Yeah, I think I have that selfie too. If I do, I'll make that this week's photo in the thumbnail, so the listeners will know whether or not I had that picture. But um, that was really cool how he went through and signed everybody's stuff. There were some people that were like, "Who are you again? Who? So you're a cup driver?" And I'm thinking, "Oh man, one of these days you're gonna wake up and go, wow, Todd Gilliland. I remember him.
Exactly. I called him a nobody by accident.
I had no idea who he was." But especially at Atlanta, I mean, imagine getting to your seats and then watching them lead laps, and you're like, "Whoa, that's the boiled peanut guy."
That's
That
the
I
guy
didn't
who
know
was
who he
signing,
was.
and that's the guy who was signing my shirt against my will just 20 minutes from the parking lot.
Exactly. I will say there are some drivers that I've seen that just get sign happy and will sign anything and everything. And it was nice that he at least asked. I was like, "Gosh, Todd, you're a great guy, but I don't have anything that would be appropriate for you to sign, so I'll pass."
It's always funny thinking about that moment. because it was me, you, and I, single barrel standing in line, and he showed up, and he was like, "Y'all want signed stuff?" And we're like, "Oh, okay." He just hijacked. He just hijacked John Hunter Nemechek's whole signing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Because
he
when he
did the
came
same
through,
thing.
John Hunter's just about to start.
Yeah, well, John Hunter was going, but
Kind of
I
held
mean, it
up the
was kind
line
of
for a
slow
couple
moving.
minutes there.
Yeah, yeah. I think he did the same thing in the Noah Gregson line. Went through and signed like that one guy that was in front of us had him sign his arm.
Yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because he said, "I
Both
don't have
of
anything for you to
Atlanta.
sign, but we signed my arm."
Yeah, and then he got to the front, and Noah's like, "What do you want me to sign?" And he's like, "My forehead." Oh, that was great. That guy ended up being a Suarez fan, and I texted him the
Suarez won
picture.
that race.
Yeah, so I texted him some pictures from the suite. That was pretty cool. But I suppose we'll move on to lap 9. Lap 9 is kind of a big one. Some people might say it's the size of a boulder. The Rock, NASCAR returns. Um, so I guess the first topic here is the lower series getting their own weekend. How do you feel about
Yes,
that?
loved it. I missed the days where it was like this. Um, Thinking back to the late 2000s, early 2010s, when the lower series would go to tracks without the Cup Series, and it makes me happy again to see it because that's the one thing I feel like we're missing from modern motorsport, especially in NASCAR. Is there's no differentiality. Everybody is racing at the same week at the same track on the same weekend. I know NASCAR has been trying to cut costs, and that's probably what it boils down to is how they're cutting their costs. But I am very, very happy to see a lower series actually be on their own and thrive at a racetrack.
Yeah, I noticed that there were several things in the NASCAR app that weren't available, and I think that was just because they didn't want to haul those trailers out just for the lower series, which was a little bit disappointing, especially considering that they didn't need to be somewhere else. If Xfinity's in Portland and Cup is in Vegas, then obviously you can't have that super expensive trailer that does all the data in both places at the same time. So I would understand that, but I mean, Rockingham's not that far from Charlotte. I mean, obviously you have to send NASCAR officials anyway because
It was
somebody's
what
got to officiate.
MRN and PRN that were down.
Yeah. No, sorry, it was telemetry.
Oh, telemetry. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think like for the truck series, I don't think we had gas. Like you weren't sure how much gas was in each of the trucks. And I don't know why that all was, but they had a disclaimer. It was very nice that they had a disclaimer so that you weren't wondering like did my subscription run out or what?
I
But
did see that.
yeah. So very cool that we were able to shine a spotlight on them. I think it's also nice to give Cup a break. I feel like when you're running just back to back to back to back to back every week for 36 weeks a year, I mean, it gets exhausting. I was thinking about that with the Royals today with their doubleheader. They got rained out last night, so they had a doubleheader today, and it's like, geez, that's a lot to ask out of your body. And yeah, I feel like Cup teams deserve a break too. Maybe even twice a year, to be honest with you. I mean, I wouldn't be against seeing another break in the schedule sometime.
I agree with you on that. It would be nice. I did like the summer vacation that NASCAR took when they had the Olympics. And I think we
Yeah.
deserve that during a NASCAR season at some point in time. I think everyone can agree we can take a break from NASCAR for a few weeks and come right back to it, just like everybody else with every other
Whoa,
sport.
whoa, whoa! For a week, a week. We're not talking a few weeks. I don't know how I'd fare with a few weeks of no NASCAR in the middle
I
of the
think
season.
a 3 week period would not be bad though.
I don't know.
F1 does it twice a year.
Think of the money. All those broadcasting rights.
They could still hold 36 races.
Yeah. You just have to either start earlier, which you really can't because of the Super Bowl or go longer, which would be kind of tough because of the weather. I
Well,
don't know.
here's my opinion on it. Why don't we start running doubleheader weekends?
Hey, so that's another one that we talked about or put on our list to talk about here. So double header weekends. Fill me in. What are you thinking?
Love them, especially when they're doubleheader days.
Yeah, yeah, because like I'm coming up on Kansas here in a couple weeks, 2 weeks from now, and it's a little bit frustrating that they've got ARCA on Friday and trucks on Saturday because there are things I want to do in Kansas City, and I'd really like to like go to a Royals game, for instance. And so now I've got to choose between ARCA and the Royals, and if ARCA was just on Saturday afternoon like it has been in the past, this wouldn't even be a discussion.
That is true. I also would like to talk to the NASCAR representative and ARCA representative that planned that race for a Friday. I want to figure out why they moved to a standalone day because that's going to hurt their attendance even more.
Absolutely. And it's not like Kansas is too small to have all the trailers in there.
Oh,
I mean
Kansas is
they've
plenty
got room.
size,
They've got plenty of room.
and ARCA's usually gone the night of their race.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think doubleheaders should return. And I think that they should be preferred. I think you really have to have a good reason to be on your own date. I realize that there, are a lot of crashes in ARCA and therefore there's a lot of debris, but honestly, we've got the equipment to sweep it up. It's not like NASCAR isn't prepared to clean up after crashes. So I don't think it's a problem. I think that we should see more doubleheader weekends.
Agreed.
So, um, how about Cup? You think Cup should come back to the Rock?
I really feel like they should not.
I agree.
The reason being is I think, first off, pointing back earlier, Xfinity, ARCA, and Truck deserve their own weekend at one racetrack. We don't have to bring Cup into this. And secondly, I don't think the Cup short track package, which it is considered a short track, wouldn't work.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see as good a racing, which is crazy because they put on one heck of a race, especially Xfinity.
I just feel like that it would be too hard to pass for the Cup cars, and it would change fan opinion really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't want to hurt good attendance for the lower series. If you put a spotlight on Cup and Xfinity's better than Cup that weekend, people probably aren't going to come back next year for any of it,
Agreed.
which is a shame. I mean, I feel like after the races that we saw this year, with a sellout crowd, I think it's going to sell out again next year.
I do agree. I think if they keep the ticket prices about as low as they are, or if they even go lower, we are hooked. I think that racetrack could become an easy sellout for the lower series every year.
Absolutely. Well, one last part on The Rock, and this was something that was brought up during the broadcast. I had no idea about this beforehand, but I think it's awesome. Our listeners probably don't know, but I'm a huge fan of Amtrak. I think that it's fantastic. I like public transportation. I think
Oh,
it's
I know what you're
efficient.
talking about.
And so Amtrak has service directly to Rockingham. And when they were on that route, they were handing out little cars, little diecast cars. And I thought that is just the coolest thing ever. Kind of makes a guy want to fly into Raleigh just so you can ride the train to Rockingham.
It is a very unique experience. They do it over in Europe all the time with the soccer teams, and the New York Mets and the Yankees also do this because you have public transportation like that inside of New York City. It is something truly special right there. It's a throwback to the past.
Absolutely. And I think it can take a lot of strain off of some of these racetracks that have trouble with parking or, long lines and whatnot. If you give them a solution like public transportation, even just asking the local municipality to add it to the rotation. I see a lot of buses at Kansas, but they're all private. I feel like if you could ask the city of Kansas City, Kansas, to add uh, the Speedway as a bus stop for race weekend exclusively, and maybe you have to put that notice out there a little ways ahead of time and say like, hey, in 3 weeks we're going to start adding Kansas Speedway, so it's going to change the schedule. Be aware. I think that you might be able to see less cars and more people, and you'd be closer to the track and less walking and have a better time. But I don't know. That's it's kind of outside of my pay grade. I can't change the public transportation available at NASCAR tracks. So
Just make a proposal.
yeah. Well, I will say though that if you're like staying at a NASCAR track, if you're camping, the trams that they provide, that NASCAR provides, fantastic. And I'm not just saying that because they're Toyota Tundras usually. They do a really good job of keeping you moving so that you don't have to walk several miles to get to the track from your
Yeah,
campsite. So
that's how it is at Talladega.
yeah, it's okay. So fair point. Talladega doesn't exactly have the best tram system, but they did get us inside when we needed to go from outside to inside the track.
Yes, they did.
So that was pretty slick. All righty. Well, moving on to lap 8, I suppose. Unless you got anything else for the Rock.
Nah, not today.
All right.
I
Well,
can smell what he's cooking.
this is some very exciting news. I can't wait to share it with you. Homestead is going to host the championship again, and they're going to be on a rotation this time. So it's not always going to be the same track every year. Thoughts?
It's very exciting. Phoenix has not been a great racetrack. Let's go ahead and be honest here. The next gen package at it is not working. I think we can all call it a flop at this point. I think that's fan opinion, not personal opinion. So it's happy to bring it back to a racetrack that has a lot of passing at it. That's what I'm excited about.
Absolutely. And there's something nostalgic about Homestead, For the longest time, I thought that those kind of aqua teal walls were like painted that way because it was the championship race. And then I realized, oh no, that's just Homestead. So yeah, I feel like especially when you've got one team that kind of dominates at a certain track, that hurts you a little bit when you get 3 in a row championships. It kind of shows that one team has something figured out at that track, and it's a shame because it just kind of hurts the competition. And so you want to see the best driver win, not just because they have the best equipment, not just because they know that track really well. And so I feel like moving from 1 to 2 to 3 tracks, I feel like NASCAR has learned a lot from the NFL. And if you look at what the NFL does for the Super Bowl, they get a lot of money essentially out of the city. The city's paying for hotel rooms for NFL executives. They're providing security. There's a lot that goes into hosting the Super Bowl. And I think that that's something that NASCAR is catching on to, that they could try to get out of different places. But I will say, in their defense, it's not all about the money, because they don't have an agreement right now from Miami.
I think it'll go through though.
I'm sure that they'll get something. I just don't know if it's what they are hoping for, and I don't know if it's going to match what Phoenix is currently paying.
Yeah.
So
It'll be interesting to see how it breaks out.
yeah, and they have confirmed that Phoenix is still in the rotation, unfortunately. But what do you think? For what other tracks are going to be on that rotation?
It'll be Phoenix for a couple more years at least. It'll be my homestead Miami. I could see it being Charlotte. I really could, but that's
I
risky at
agree.
the time of year with the weather. They might go to Las Vegas too. I feel like Las Vegas is going to be a dark horse in this whole system.
Vegas for sure.
It'll be warmer weather areas. I don't think Texas will be in the running for it. I don't think Kansas will be either. I can already predict NASCAR won't go to Atlanta, Daytona, Talladega. Go take up the short tracks. So it only leaves you with a certain amount of tracks NASCAR realistically would go to for their championship race.
For sure.
And they
And I
won't hold
feel
it on a
like
road course either. It'll be
no.
on a regular oval track.
No, I feel like your championship race should always be held on a mile and a half because that's the most popular track. You know, that's what you see the
And
most
the
of,
racing's been really good.
right? Yeah, you've been seeing a lot of passing. There's a lot of really close finishes. Um, I think Charlotte's one that we haven't heard a lot in this conversation, and I think you're right. I think that there's a pretty good chance that Charlotte could host the championship sometime.
It's right there. The teams won't have to travel like they usually do.
Yeah,
It's a win-win for everybody in that situation.
I think it could be. All right, lap number 7. This is a long-standing, very competitive ARCA team. Venturini Motorsports is selling their team to Nitro Motorsports starting October 15th.
Yes.
So kind of the end of the ARCA series season this year. They're going to be turning over the keys. I didn't see. Does this include like a shop? Is this kind of like the KBM
Yes.
sale?
I'm
Okay.
99% sure they own the shop that they're preparing their cars in.
So this is kind of a big deal. Do you think that it's a matter of cars and a shop, or do you think how much of a factor do the people play in the success of an ARCA team like that?
Well, I'll go ahead and be honest with you. Venturini's a great team. Has always been. I say Nitro will pick up right where they left off. But Venturini has supplied his cars to some lesser skilled drivers in the past couple of years. He has definitely lost a lot of chassis.
Right. Which can hurt you over time when you're building a new
Exactly.
chassis all the time.
I say most of the Venturini guys that work on the cars will stay as long as they are paid their same salary. Like if the team just picks right up where Venturini left off. If Nitro picks up where they left off, I think it'll be a smooth flowing transition. But if they
But how
decide they're gonna buy their own, if they're gonna go their own direction, they could run into a risk.
Yeah, I was going to say, how often do you see somebody buy out a successful business and run it into the ground, though? I feel like a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of times
it
they
all
come in
depends.
and it's like, I want to do it this way. It's like, hey, I've been here 14 years and I'm telling you, this other way is the way to go. And then that guy gets fired. And so then everybody
Exactly.
else either quiets down, doesn't say anything, or they voluntarily leave. So I don't know. We'll see how they turn out, but it worries me a little bit. It worries me to see long-standing ARCA teams sell out, just because I don't know what that says for ARCA.
I think Arca's an upswing, not a downswing. I'll leave it at that.
I like your optimism. All right, we're gonna need that optimism for lap 6. the All-Star format has been released for North Wilkesboro Speedway. I do like the idea of going back to North Wilkesboro. I think it's a good track. I think it's got a lot of money put into it. But I don't know why they keep. I do know why they keep changing things up is because this is the only time that they can change things up. But some of these things leave me scratching my head, like the promoter's caution. What? I've heard a couple of YouTubers say that this is. We used to just call those back in my day. We used to just call those debris cautions. And it's like,
Exactly,
yeah,
the
no,
phantom cautions.
I remember the phantom cautions. But at the same time, why? Why are we putting just a willy-nilly caution in there? You know, I mean, I get it. Throw a wrench in the strategies. But who? Marcus Smith just gets to throw it whenever he feels like it, or you know, the France family's just sitting back there with a red button, or who's making this call? The promoter's caution. Okay. It's an SMI track. So I wonder if it's not SMI that gets to make that call. My question is, who decided this was a good idea? Who asked for this? It wasn't the fans.
That's what I want to know at this point. We just want the regular All-Star race back. And it seems like NASCAR has to try and fidget with something every year.
Can't we just fidget with things that don't really matter, like underglow? Or like maybe we just allow them for one race to put stickers on the windshield. Maybe Fig Newton will come back. I don't know. I learned this week that Talladega Nights had some scenes shot during the 2005 Talladega Fall Race, and that's pretty cool.
There is a video that is online. I will have to try to find it later on and send it to you, of the actual crash that happened in the movie from the grandstands.
That'd be cool to see. So, all right. What else do they have for the All-Star race? The manufacturer contest. Now, I didn't read into this a whole lot, but I wonder if this whole deal, because they said that the manufacturers will be represented equally. And, you know, I don't know how I feel about that because Chevy has way more cars than anybody else. And I get that they're just trying to be even Steven about it, just trying to be fair. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you wanted more people in the contest, you should have had more cars. You know, buy more charters then.
That is true.
I don't know. So I wonder if this idea here is to try to appeal to OEMs. If you've got Honda on the sidelines, like, yeah, we'd sure like to participate, but we feel like we're going to be really outnumbered. If all we have is Trackhouse, we just have 3 cars out there. We're just, you know, plus your 4, your factory team, you'd have 4 more. So, but still 7 cars. I don't know.
It is rough. I don't know. NASCAR apparently has a plan if they're going to get a new manufacturer.
Well, hopefully we'll see the new manufacturer soon.
I say next year or the year after we will. It would not surprise me if it comes in, if they announce it this year and it's not until after next season that we actually see it.
It was surprising to me that they were talking about Dodge coming back to the Cup Series. There was some talk about that when they announced that they're coming back to the Truck Series. And then there was talk about maybe they're the OEM that wants to come back to the Cup Series. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I know that there was talk too about Kia Hyundai, and Hyundai commercials now are like really focused on, you know, we're American and we're not raising MSRPs. And okay, maybe that would really help with your brand image being part of NASCAR. Nothing seems to be more American than that. So,
yeah, that is true.
Something to consider for marketing. All right. On to lap 5. So I think we need more transparency with penalties, especially if it's a disqualification. Jesse Love's penalty came out stripped him of his win 4 hours after the win happened, gave it to Sammy Smith. RCR appealed this week and lost their appeal. The appeals panel said that they weren't sure whether it was intentional or accidental damage, but I'm still not entirely sure of what the heck we're talking about here. If there's a piece that connects like the rear end, the bumper, and the trunk lid and things to the car, wouldn't you want that to be strapped on? I mean, how does it give you an advantage for that to be broken or something? I don't understand. I just want more transparency. I hear that at one point in time, NASCAR would kind of shame the teams that they caught cheating and show exactly what they did and why this is a problem. I mean, if you're adding an inch and a half to your spoiler, yeah, I can see where that's an advantage. I can see watching the race that something was wrong with Jesse Love's car in a good way. You know, I mean,
Exactly.
guy would come back he'd lose like 3 or 4 positions and then just walk right past him. I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
he could hug the track like it was nobody's business. So, do I think something was illegal on that car? Sure. Would I like to know what it was? Absolutely. Yeah, fill me in on it. Tell me what's going on. Show me where's the broadcast team's cutaway car when I need it.
Exactly.
So,
we just don't have that.
No, not for Xfinity.
We need more transparency from NASCAR on penalties. We need a statement of some sort.
I want pictures. And I want details. I want them to be like, hey, listen, if this was a result of racing, that's a shame because of the 30 something cars that were in this race, only 2 of them had that issue, or only 1 of them had that issue, and it was the winner. So
yeah,
I don't know. Those are the types of things that kind of throw me for a loop, I guess. And I just wish that, especially with NASCAR wanting to be more transparent, I mean, it's clear to me that they want to. They're showing that they really want to, because they've got this like Hauler Talk podcast that they're doing weekly, and they're more active on social media than they've ever been before. I think they definitely are trying their best to be more transparent.
I think they are. It'll take some time.
Yeah, I just want to see that next step.
I agree.
All right. Well, we're on to lap 4, which is ARCA. Did you get a chance to watch the ARCA race this week?
I watched most of it.
What did you think? Anything stand out to you?
Not really. It was an average ARCA race. I'll give it that. But 2 things is NASCAR / ARCA officials decided to park the number 31 of Tim Gauntlet. Either way, my bad for mispronouncing. And the number 48 of Brad Smith. They were very slow and off pace. And this week, NASCAR decided to park them. Well, most weeks, NASCAR doesn't do that.
Right. I feel like NASCAR needs to pull that card more often. You know, maybe they greenlight a driver, but if that driver is so severely off pace that they're down 2 laps, 50 laps into the race, might be time. Might be time to pull the plug and park them. You know, I feel like it's not a bad thing to say that's a safety concern. It certainly is on our interstate highway system. You know,
Yeah.
If you can't go 40 miles an hour, you're not allowed to be on the interstate. Sorry. It's a safety concern for you and for everybody around you. But yeah. It sounded like they had pretty good attendance. I mean, did it look good in the stands?
It was very full.
That's
I
awesome.
would say there's probably 5,000 empty seats for it, but for an ARCA race standard outside of the Daytona race, that is a massive crowd for ARCA. I hope the series got some money out of that throughout the weekend, because if they did, that'll be a big boost for the sport for the rest of the season.
Yeah, hopefully. You're looking forward to seeing ARCA this weekend, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Cletus McFarland's return.
Yeah, that should be exciting. He's kind of building up excitement on his YouTube channel right now with $5,000 RV challenge.
Yes, he is. They took him to the Tail of the Dragon today.
Oh, did they? I didn't even
Yes.
see that. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's photos that have surfaced online from photographers on the Tail of the Dragon showing what has happened. All
That's
three made it.
crazy.
I haven't seen the video, of course, but all three have made it through
All
the
three
Tail
of
of the
them made it.
Dragon, and they should be Daytona bound either tonight
Talladega bound. Yeah.
or morning. Oh yeah, Talladega bound. Either tonight or in the morning.
Very exciting. Yeah, they were on a dirt track with them earlier, and then the Ford had a fire, so they had to spray everything down with a fire extinguisher, which left them with a bunch of, the worst part is they had to bug bomb that place, and now they had to put off a fire extinguisher, and so it's got to be dusty in there.
It's
I
got to
don't
be
know.
at this point.
I think I'd just roll all the windows down or leave them all open and go 65, try to air the thing out.
Might
it
have
was
to
me.
start another fire if that happens.
I don't know. Stop by your local fire department and ask them if they have any heavy duty fans for positive pressure ventilation. But I don't know. Anyway, so I suppose that's ARCA. Any other ARCA news?
Just a couple off the top of my head is there will be 40 cars at the races, 38 cars that have been to the Talladega race this weekend, which is the biggest field, of course, since Daytona. And no, she's not running in it. Never mind. Only 1 point. I thought Catherine Legg was racing ARCA this weekend, but she is not.
A 40-car field on a drafting track should be interesting.
I think it will be. I think this race will be one of the ones to watch this season. I just hope it's not a repeat of Daytona.
Right. Yeah.
That was a rough watch.
That was a lot of the coaching that Dale Jr. gave Garrett Mitchell, Cletus McFarland, when they were at Talladega. They were messing around with the old Dale truck, and Dale Jr. was giving some advice on what Cletus needs to do in this next race, and it was basically just survive. If you see the guy in front of you getting squirrely, get away from him. Find a different lane. You just need to survive for 80% of the race, and then you can start making moves. And I'm like, yep, I think that's probably some very sound advice.
That kind of sums up short track or draft track racing.
Absolutely.
Outside of Atlanta, it doesn't seem to apply at Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta's a whole different animal. I kind of hope that when it surfaces which track is getting the super speedway treatment, I'm really hoping that it's Texas, because I wouldn't mind going back to Texas. So, and I'm sure that Dan wouldn't mind going back to Texas, and it would be pretty cool for all three of us to meet up and do an episode of 10 to Go Radio live from the track.
That would be fun.
It'd be pretty snazzy. So something to stay tuned for. Folks, if you're enjoying the podcast, I know we're kind of cruising right through it this week. Give us some feedback. I mean, is this kind of the pace you're looking for, or no? We really do appreciate your feedback and having you subscribe. It's free. It's just turning that red button down there that says subscribe into a gray button that says subscribed. So if you check out the channel, we've got all kinds of other previous episodes and some videos from the track, a couple of trips that we've been on. So definitely check it out. But I suppose, what else you got for ARCA? Anything?
That's all for ARCA this week.
All right, back on to lap 3 now with trucks. Frankie Muniz. I wondered when I first heard about this plan to be bouncing between truck racing and filming, if we wouldn't see some concern out of Frankie Muniz, and now it sounds like he's not doing too good, huh?
He stated that he'd never been at a lower point in his life, and I think it bumbles down to he paid for this ARCA truck series ride, which of course in the truck series he fared well last season, just like he fared well in ARCA. And at the end of the day, I don't think he's happy with the team's performance. And going from filming your new show to driving a truck that you're paying for that's gonna run max top 20, I think it's starting to affect him a little bit.
Yeah, you're not seeing that major improvement that you thought you would, and people are, you're kind of running out of excuses after running a full season. Um, and it just doesn't help any that you've got this huge other commitment to be working on and thinking about and devoting time to when you could be in the sim. You want one good solid season to say, you know what, I did everything I could. I was in the gym, I was in the sim, and it didn't help. I couldn't break top 20 or top 15 or whatever, or I couldn't consistently get good results. I think it's time to call it. But if you call it after the season, you're always going to say, I wonder what would have been if I was able to devote 110% to truck racing.
I agree. And he said that the money from this project that he's doing is what paid for his NASCAR season. So I guess he would assume he somewhat knew at least what he signed up for.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost can't be upset then. Well, move off of that sad topic onto another kind of sad topic. Lap number 2, Xfinity. Jesse Love trying to pull into his pit stall, and the 70 car. Jesse Love was trying to pull out of his pit stall, and the 70 car was trying to pull in, and they had a little bit of a tango, little whoopsie daisy there. Thoughts on that? I mean, is that something that NASCAR should be able to say, hey, whoop, whoop, whoop. He didn't actually lose those 2 spots. He was avoiding a crash with the 70 car.
I don't think so. Usually, pit collisions in NASCAR are a common thing at certain tracks, but it's not a common thing overall. It's just happen chance. You drew the wrong deck of cards on the exit of pit room. I think at the end of the day, it's more of it's an accident thing. If you're running behind a wreck and slow down for the wreck before the caution comes out and you lose a spot, but you lose that spot.
Yeah.
It's just the pit road equivalent of that.
Yeah, we can't make up for all the world's problems, right?
Yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't like that, then should have won the pole.
Yeah, that's another way to see it.
So, something else that came out of the Xfinity race this week, Catherine Legg throws a bad block and ends up taking out Kasey Kahne. Thoughts on that? I mean, this isn't the first time that we've seen this.
Well, here's what I got to say personally. She should not have moved down like she did, okay?
Right?
But people are blaming her solely for this accident, when at the end of the day, who ran into her again? Who was that?
That's a great question.
Cannot remember who ran into her, and if I did, this would go a lot smoother.
It wasn't Kasey Kahne. Hold on,
No,
stand by,
Kasey
folks.
got collected. After further review, it was William Swalich who ran into the back of leg. And there are photos all over Twitter and even if you saw it on the live broadcast, showing that Swallow has an entire lane below him. He has room to go to the bottom.
Right.
He's running, instead of running in lane 1 at the bottom, he's running in like 1.5. And that's what causes tango between her and Catherine Legg. But Catherine does not have a reason to drop back and give him wrist space. She's racing to be on the lead lap if a caution were to come out. He's racing the second place car. Well, she is. She's on the high side of the second place car. It is not her responsibility to maneuver, get out of the way. It's Swalloge's duty to get around her cleanly. This has been a thing in NASCAR for many, many years. And no, Catherine Legg shouldn't have came down like she did, but she's not completely in the wrong like people think she is.
Yeah, I'd call this probably a 60-40 split in terms of liability, and with 60% going to William Sawalich, who's kind of off to a mediocre start for being in Joe Gibbs equipment.
Yeah, I do give some leeway when it comes to Joe Gibbs, our Xfinity drivers, though. They take time to develop. Not every person on your Xfinity program is going to be the Ty Gibbs that he was in 2020.
Fair enough.
It just takes time.
Well, and there is time to turn things around. So,
yeah.
I wish I had a printout. NASCAR sent me this postcard of all the races this year, but it's only for
sweet.
Cup. So I wish they would have sent another one with at least Xfinity. But it'd be nice to have all 3 national series.
And NASCAR needs to start showing these lower series some love. This weekend proved that they have a fan base in their own.
While I'm looking off to the side here, I wanted to share this with the group. So check that out. 1 year ago today, not necessarily today, but 1 year ago, we were at Talladega. That was a lot of fun. So
that was
that on the picture wall. So, all right. Well, I suppose that's probably the end of lap 2, unless you got anything else for Xfinity.
Nope, I've covered all my Xfinity topics this week.
Well, then on to the final lap. The white flag is out. We don't have a whole lot going on here in Cup. So we're just kind of looking forward to Talladega this week. But one of the Cup drivers, Kyle Larson, has some news. He's going to be running the Indy 500. He's running the double. So with a preference towards NASCAR this year. Last year, if you don't know, there was a rain delay. And arguably, the more prestigious event to race in is the Indy 500. So yes. Kyle had put a lot of time and effort and money into being a part of that race. He preferred that race, so he stayed with that race. He got down to Charlotte late. The same rain cloud followed him down, and he wasn't. Disclaimer: I don't know that it's the same rain cloud. I'm not a meteorologist, but it rained in Charlotte too, and they ended up calling the race early, and Kyle wasn't able to get in the seat.
Yep.
And then NASCAR waited and waited and waited on the waiver that says, I understand you missed a race. It's okay. You're still in the playoffs. It would have hurt NASCAR a lot if they'd have been petty enough to say, nope, you don't get to race in the playoffs because you didn't show up to every race. But I'm sure that they had
a rough one.
Yeah. They had a sit down talk with him and came to an agreement that if it happens again this year, you will prefer the Coke 600 over the Indy 500. So
NASCAR's teeter-tottering right there with everything because it brings Aaron McLaren into the sport as well. And NASCAR knows that. And NASCAR knows Kyle going over to Indy, a Roger Penske-owned racetrack, by the way, that he helps boost that. It also helps boost Roger Penske's standing. Roger Penske being a NASCAR owner, it helps out. This kind of goes full circle, and I think NASCAR also had to put their foot down due to the fact they had to go, hey, look, we were cool with that. We were okay with it, but you have to have your butt in a car when stuff starts with us.
Yeah. Yeah, they know darn well that it's a big circle. I mean, even being in the news today, if you're an IndyCar fan and they're talking about Kyle Larson hitting the wall, um, and then people in the comments are talking about, oh, typical Kyle Larson pushing to the limit, checkers or wreckers. Yeah, it looks like it'll be wreckers. Well, then you might get a little curious. Maybe I should check out this NASCAR stuff this weekend. Talladega seems like a interesting track. Maybe I'll watch that. And then you get hooked on NASCAR. Not even because, only because Kyle Larson was in a wreck in an IndyCar today. You might pull some Indy fans in, especially with the
it's a hand in hand thing. So
yeah.
it's a really eerie topic when it comes to that.
Well, and now that NASCAR is coming back for the Brickyard 400, I mean, I would think you'd want to promote Indy. I think you'd want to promote the double as much as possible.
Exactly.
And when you do this kind of ticky tacky stuff, you just drive others away. If RCR was kind of petering on the edge of maybe we will, maybe we won't put Kyle Busch in an IndyCar. Now they're definitely not going to put him in an IndyCar because we need your playoff eligibility.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where it's extremely risky for the team owner. And in this case, I think Rick Hendrick has enough foresight to be like, you know what, it's worth it either way. It's good for my brand, good for my dealerships. We'll play ball. We'll put you in a good ride for Indy. See what you can do. So I'll actually be at that race. So wish me luck. Hopefully, I'll be going with a Kyle Larson fan, my dad. So hopefully he sees a good race and we're all along for the ride. So
don't count me out just yet. I have some witchcraft magic I'm thinking about pulling.
Hey, we would love to have you. Absolutely. And we've got another wristband. So,
How'd you get another wristband?
It came with 4 wristbands. So,
okay.
Come on out. Anyway, we can talk offline about that. But yeah, we'd love to have you for the Indy 500. This will be my first Indy 500. So it's always good to go, as we've talked in the past, always good to go to a racetrack with somebody that's been there before that kind of knows what's going on. And we're going to be the 3 blind mice at Indy 500 this year. So
I'll have it. It'll be announced if me and him both go to the Indy 500. I've thought about it though.
Yeah,
it's a great race to be at. The energy of it's unmatched.
Absolutely. So I've heard that you should bring milk. I'm not sure why that is, but
don't bring the milk actually though.
Oh, okay.
In that hot Indiana heat, that milk will be yogurt by the time you get to it at the end of the race.
I was gonna say it's there's a good chance you come back to cheese if you're not careful shaking that cooler.
Yes, so I would go to the gas station down the road and get the milk.
Oh, solid. All right, well, on to we have actually this is our first time. I'm looking at the clock here, and we're 53 minutes into the show. So I think we've got time for our bonus lap. What do you think of that? A little victory lap.
We do.
All right. So we're both I'm an aspiring MLB fan. I like the Royals just because I like Kansas City, but and you're a fan of the Cincinnati Reds.
Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah. So tell me, what do you think of this new baseball bat? It sounds like it technically meets all the requirements that the league has, but it's only the Yankees that are using it. Is that right?
Not anymore. Over the last couple of weeks, multiple MLB stars have been getting their hands on them. Notably to us, Elly De La Cruz for the Reds and Bobby Witt Jr. for the Royals both have one.
Very cool. Do you think that they're gonna lead to more homers? I mean, that's the goal. It'd be good for the fans. Nobody wants to. Everybody wants to see a perfect game for pitching, right? Where you just get 3 strikeouts every inning and nobody gets a hit for your team. You want to see that, but at the end of the day, more hits means a better ball game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
It is made to MLB regulation, and MLB in theory, what they're going to do probably about mid-season is change up the ball again. If you didn't know, the MLB tweaks the baseball a little bit, quote unquote, and designs one that's either better for pitchers or better for hitters. There's a hitter's ball and there's a pitcher's ball, basically in the MLB, and they swap and rotate throughout them every once in a while. If the homers are getting too bad, help the pitchers out. If the pitchers are doing too good and the hitters are having a bad season, help the hitters out. I think at this point, they're not going to ban the bat. It is up to spec. An MIT graduate created this bat after he dissected like everything about the MLB rulebook, helped to watch the film for the Yankees, saw how much they were missing their pitches by, and they said, okay, hold on, we can fix this. And he designed a bat that is up to MLB spec because the Yankees were not hitting the ball on the hardest part of the ball or hardest part of the bat. They were hitting it in the area where they have the bulb now. I would call it a bulb that they're hitting it with.
yeah. Put a little more weight in the most commonly used part of the bat.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. It's similar to the NFL trying to change their rules to get more people to return the ball. I think
Yeah.
that we'll see that the further we move this line. I mean, there are memes out there that by 2030, if you have a touchback, you'll just start at the 50-yard line if we just keep moving it up. And I feel like that's going to lead to more touchdowns, which is, in my opinion, better. I like high scoring games in all of the games, whether it be in football or baseball or whatever it is. High scores are good in my opinion, but
Yes, they are.
I see so many baseball games that are just 0-0 until the 8th inning, and then somebody gets one run, and then that's the win. And it's like, wow, well, that was interesting.
It'll be fun. I think we're hitting a new evolution and era of MLB. I think we're
Yeah,
hitting a new baseball bat era where it's going to be a hitter big for the next couple of years, even with the pitcher ball, maybe. I
yeah.
think the players will start to get their feet under this. I think it's going to become the new norm for baseball bats.
With any luck, hopefully.
I think it'll be a good project. It's of course it's in its infancy right now. Not every player has one. Some players think it's stupid. Some love it. Some probably can't hit without it at this point. But it'll take a little while to figure everything out. They'll
For
tweak
sure.
it. They'll figure it out. They'll figure out if different players need special bats and whatever. They'll get something designed.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see how it turns out, and we'll keep you posted. Make sure you subscribe down below, and we'll see you next week for another episode of 10 to Go Radio.
Be safe, everybody.